All right, so get this.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty wild, right?
Definitely makes you think.
Okay.
And that kind of mind-bending idea is exactly what we're diving into today.
Exactly. We're going deep, really deep, into some fascinating and, yeah, maybe a bit controversial ideas about God, life, the whole
A
shebang.
whole enchilada. And to guide us on this journey, we're turning to a truly unique book, Neale Donald Walsch's Conversations with God, Book One.
Okay, so for our listeners who like to get to the heart of things quickly, this isn't your typical theological text. I mean, it's presented as a direct, ongoing dialogue with God.
Yeah, like a transcript of a 3-year conversation. Pretty bold, right?
Totally. And for those of you who, like me, devour knowledge and want the nitty-gritty details, don't worry, we're going to break it down for you. You'll get those juicy insights, the specific points that really get the wheels turning.
Precisely. So think of this deep dive as our attempt to extract the pure gold, the core wisdom, from Conversations with God. We're going to unpack its unique perspective on God, our purpose as humans, the radical idea that maybe right and wrong are kind of an illusion, the sheer power of our thoughts and emotions.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Huge. And ultimately, what this text suggests is the true path to understanding ourselves and, well, understanding God, or at least this book's version of God.
Let's jump right in with something foundational, how God supposedly communicates. And you might be surprised, forget the booming voice from the heavens. This book proposes that God speaks primarily through, well, feeling.
Like that gut feeling, that intuition.
Exactly. That's the direct line, the most immediate way we receive guidance. Then comes thought, specifically what it calls the highest thought, which is always, always connected to joy. And here's the kicker. Words, like the clearest words that contain truth, those are actually seen as the least effective way God communicates and the most prone to misinterpretation.
Which is fascinating, right? Because so much of religious tradition is built around written and spoken words.
Totally. But the book goes on to say that along with feeling and thought, there's also the grandest feeling, which is love. And these three, joy, truth, love, they're not separate things, but intertwined, interchangeable expressions of the same divine energy.
That makes sense. They do kind of go hand in hand when you think about it.
Totally. And what this really emphasizes is that we all have access to this divine connection. God, according to the book, is constantly communicating with everyone, not just a chosen few or during special moments. To think otherwise, it argues, is to kind of shirk our personal responsibility for recognizing and interpreting that guidance in our own lives.
Okay, so that leads to the question of authority, right? Like, what are the truest sources of truth? And Conversations with God really challenges the idea of blindly following religious leaders or ancient texts.
Big time. It's all about turning inward, trusting your own feelings, those highest thoughts, and your direct experiences. And if those conflict with what some external authority is saying, trust your gut. Trust your own inner compass.
Now, what about God's image? Because most religions have some sort of visual representation, right?
Right, but this book throws that out the window. It claims that God simply doesn't have a form or shape that our limited human minds can grasp. Any form we could conceive of would be instantly misinterpreted as the only form.
So we're talking about something way beyond our capacity to visualize.
Exactly. The book refers to God as the great unseen, something beyond our current understanding of what seeing even means.
Okay, so here's where things get really interesting for me. The book claims that God has absolutely zero preference in what we humans do.
None whatsoever.
It says the ultimate outcome is already guaranteed. So this whole idea of God micromanaging our every decision and having strong opinions about, I don't know, whether we choose Coke or Pepsi, that's just an illusion we've created.
Yeah, a big fat illusion. Now, this might raise some eyebrows, especially when we look at all the suffering in the world. But the book addresses this head on. It says God doesn't cause bad things to happen, like pandemics, famines, wars. Instead, those are seen as outcomes of human consciousness and choices.
So we're not puppets on strings being controlled by some divine being.
Nope, we've got free will. And God, according to this book, respects that free will completely and doesn't intervene, even when things get messy.
Okay, then what is our purpose here? If we're not just playing out some preordained script, what's the point of it all?
Well, the book is pretty clear about that. It says it's not about struggling through life, learning tough lessons, like we're in some cosmic school. Instead, it's about remembering and actively recreating who you are at the deepest level.
So kind of like uncovering your true self, your essence.
Yeah, spot on. The analogy is in the book is pretty cool. It says that the soul, deep down, already knows everything, but knowing isn't enough. The soul craves experience to turn those abstract concepts into lived reality.
So it's one thing to know that you're capable of great love, but it's a whole different thing to actually express that love, to feel it in action.
Exactly. That's where the real learning, the real growth happens.
And to explain the origin of the universe, the book uses the term all that is. It's this state of pure being that couldn't fully know itself without the existence of that which is not.
Like light and darkness, right? You can't understand one without the other.
Precisely. This fundamental duality, this dance between what is and what isn't, that's what sparks creation.
And get this, the book offers a totally unique interpretation of that biblical phrase, image and likeness of God. It's not about looking like God, but about sharing the same fundamental essence.
So we're made of the same stuff, so to speak.
Yeah, and we have the same power to shape reality with our consciousness. And this gets to God's motivation for creating us. It was, according to the book, to know himself through our experiences.
Like we're all little facets of God, exploring different aspects of existence.
Exactly. We each bring something unique to the table, expanding the grand tapestry of God's self-awareness.
So when we came into this physical world, there was a kind of cosmic amnesia, right?
Mm.
We intentionally forgot our true divine nature.
Yeah, a deliberate forgetting. And this forgetting, it says, allows us to genuinely choose who we want to be, to experience the full spectrum of choice, which is the very essence of how God operates.
So the world we see, with all its ups and downs, exists as it does because within the rules of this physical reality, it literally couldn't be any other way. Things that we call natural disasters are simply movements of the elements, part of the natural rhythms of life itself.
Right. Think about it. A volcano erupting isn't good or bad. It just is.
Exactly. And even things like illness and disease are presented as manifestations of human consciousness, something that could potentially be reversed by choosing well-being.
And it goes further, saying that large-scale crises, like global pandemics, are the result of, well, global consciousness. So we're not just victims of fate. We're active participants in shaping our individual and collective reality.
Now, here's an idea that might really shift your perspective. The book challenges the very notion of inherent pain.
You mean, like, pain is not an unavoidable part of life?
Yeah, exactly. It suggests that nothing is inherently painful. Pain is something we create through our judgment of events. And a lot of that judgment is based on past experiences, or what it calls first thought.
First thought, so like our initial reaction to something.
Exactly, that immediate interpretation we slap onto an experience. And by releasing those judgments, we can actually lessen, even eliminate pain from our experience.
Interesting. So it's not about denying the physical sensation, but changing our relationship to it, how we interpret it.
Right. And this leads us to a pretty radical concept, the illusion of right and wrong.
So you're saying there's no absolute morality?
According to this book, yeah. It says there are no universal shoulds or shouldn'ts, not from God's perspective anyway. Those are human constructs, not divine decrees.
So all those rules and commandments?
Created by us. God, the book argues, never established a fixed set of right and wrong actions. To do so would violate our free will, which is kind of our most sacred gift.
That makes sense. If we're truly free to choose, there can't be a predetermined set of right answers.
And get this, the book suggests that whatever you constantly condemn in others, you're likely to experience yourself. Whatever you judge harshly, you might one day become.
Whoa, that's a powerful thought.
Isn't it? Instead of condemning, the focus should be on changing what no longer serves you and offering compassion to others on their own journeys.
Okay, let's talk about heaven and hell. I mean, this is where things get really fiery, right?
Well, not so much in this book. It throws out those traditional images of a fiery pit and pearly gates.
Yeah.
Hell isn't some physical place of torment. It's the experience of the worst possible consequences of your own choices. It's a state of unfulfillment, of denying your true self.
So hell is more of an internal state than an external location.
Precisely. And heaven, it's not some far-off reward. The book says it's a state of being that's accessible right here, right now. The only thing stopping us from experiencing it is our difficulty in fully grasping this possibility.
So it's like heaven is a choice, a state of mind we can cultivate.
Exactly. Now let's dive into the power of our inner world. The book says that every action we take, every choice we make, comes from one of two sources, love or fear.
And those two forces are always at play, influencing our thoughts and behaviors.
Yeah. And that voice within, that intuition, that's seen as the most direct communication from God, our personal radar for truth.
And thoughts themselves are described as potent creative energy that never dies. They radiate outward, attracting similar energy, forming clumps that can eventually become physical matter.
Whoa, so we're talking about manifesting our reality with our thoughts.
Exactly. And emotion is the fuel, the powerful magnet that draws those energies together. And the book states a pretty bold idea. What you fear most intensely, you're actually drawing into your experience.
Like we're literally attracting our fears.
Yep. It's about becoming aware of those deeply held fears and choosing to shift our focus.
And this all ties into what the book calls the fundamental laws governing reality. The first law, you can be, do, and have anything you can imagine. Second law, you attract what you fear. And the third law, the overarching truth, is that love is all there is.
So love is the ultimate reality, the foundation of everything.
Exactly. And pay close attention to your I am statements. Those are the most powerful creative forces in the universe. Whatever you consciously or unconsciously put after those two words sets experiences in motion, shaping your reality.
So be mindful of what you declare yourself to be.
Absolutely. Now, how do we apply all this to our lives? What's the path to God, to realizing our true selves? The book says it's not about harsh self-denial like some religions preach. It's about consciously letting go of beliefs and behaviors that no longer serve us.
So not suppressing our desires, but consciously evolving them.
Precisely. And passion is actually celebrated in this book. It's seen as the vibrant expression of love in action, the fuel that drives creation. Denying your passions is like denying a core part of yourself.
So it's more about being mindful of our attachments to outcomes, not the passions themselves.
Right. There's a great line in the book, what you resist persists, and what you look at disappears. Resisting something just gives it more power. Shifting your focus diminishes its influence.
Makes sense. It's like when you try not to think about something, you end up thinking about it even more.
Exactly. And let's talk about suffering. The book challenges the idea that suffering is inherently good or necessary for spiritual growth.
Which is a pretty common belief in many traditions.
Right. But it suggests that the original wisdom around silently enduring suffering has been, well, twisted. True spiritual masters, it says, choose silence about suffering not because it's good, but because of the creative power of words.
So they're choosing not to give it more energy by talking about it.
Exactly. They're choosing to focus on what they want to create, not what they want to avoid.
That's powerful.
And the ultimate goal, to fully realize yourself in the physical body, to become the embodiment of your true nature. That's God's plan for us according to this book.
To become living, breathing expressions of divinity.
Precisely. And forgiveness of yourself and others is crucial. Accepting yourself as you are right now, that's the fastest path to self-realization, not constantly striving to get better.
Self-acceptance is a foundation for growth.
Exactly. And relationships, they're the most powerful opportunities to decide who you really are, not to try to control someone else. The focus should be on what you are being in the relationship.
Not what you're getting out of it, but what you're bringing to it.
Right. And this might sound counterintuitive, but the book says the most loving person is actually self-centered.
Wait, self-centered, that sounds kind of selfish.
Not in the negative sense. It's about understanding that loving yourself first allows you to genuinely love others.
So it's like filling your own cup so you can overflow into others' cups.
Precisely. And those who've achieved a high level of self-realization, those it calls masters, they actually bless calamity because it's seen as an opportunity for growth.
So challenges become stepping stones.
Exactly. And the book suggests that after self-realization, the next purpose is growth itself, moving from personal soul work to a broader God work, contributing to the collective. Life is seen as an opportunity for creation, not just discovery.
We're not just along for the ride, we're active participants in shaping our experience.
And here's a point that might resonate with you, include yourself among those you love. It's not selfish to prioritize your own well-being.
It's essential. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And in relationships, be honest about your feelings. Speak your truth kindly but firmly. Your internal reaction to someone's actions, that's where the real growth happens, not in trying to control their behavior.
It's about taking responsibility for our own emotional responses.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about abundance and right livelihood. The book suggests that feeling ambivalent about money, thinking it's bad, while also resenting not having enough, that creates inconsistent financial experiences.
Like attracting what we don't want by focusing on it.
Exactly. To change that, you need to change your thoughts about money. And here's a cool idea. Reverse the usual thought-word-deed process. Act as if you already have the abundance you desire, then affirm positive words about it.
So fake it till you make it.
Kinda. It's about retraining your subconscious mind. And worldly success, the book says, is determined by your state of being and those all-important I am statements. Simply wishing for success doesn't cut it. You have to choose it, embody it.
You have to become success, not just want it.
Exactly. And this applies to health and well-being too. The body reflects our inner state. Chronic worry, hate, fear, those negatively impact the body at a cellular level.
So our mental and emotional state is directly connected to our physical health.
Absolutely. The book even says the human body was designed to last much longer than we typically experience. But we abuse it with bad habits and, crucially, negative thoughts and emotions.
So we're not just talking about diet and exercise, but our mental and emotional state as well.
Right. Cultivating a deep sense of inner abundance can have a positive ripple effect on our physical well-being. Body, mind, and soul, they're all interconnected, reflecting the wholeness of the divine.
We're a microcosm of the macrocosm.
Precisely. Okay, let's touch on the afterlife and reincarnation. The book says there's no judgment waiting for us after death, not even self-judgment. It's a chance to review your life and choose what you want to experience next, based on who you are now.
So no eternal damnation.
Nope. It introduces a concept called kamaloka, where you relive every thought, word, and deed, but from the perspective of everyone you affected. And yes, reincarnation is a thing. In fact, the book says you've had 647 past lives, making this your 648th. You've experienced it all.
Wow, 647 lifetimes. That's a lot of baggage.
Right. But it's not about karmic debt or punishment. It's about remembering, growing, expanding your awareness.
Each lifetime building on the previous one.
Exactly. Finally, let's talk about sex. The book's stance is pretty simple. It's okay. God wouldn't have given us the equipment if it wasn't meant to be enjoyed.
So no shame or guilt around sexuality.
Nope. It acknowledges that sex can happen without love, especially as we're figuring ourselves out. But ultimately, the energy of sex is the life force itself. Moralistic codes around sex are seen as hindering a full celebration of being. Sex can be a powerful expression of love.
So it's about approaching sex with reverence and joy, not shame.
Exactly. And one last point, this book emphasizes the role of messengers throughout history. It says countless spiritual masters have come to share truth. And it suggests that you, our listener, are a messenger too, called to speak your truth.
So we all have a role to play in spreading wisdom and understanding.
Absolutely. So to wrap up our deep dive into conversations with God, the main takeaway is incredibly empowering. It suggests that you're a powerful creator. Your thoughts and feelings shape your reality, and that judgmental God, those rigid rules, those might be illusions. The focus is on self-awareness, choosing your state of being, and understanding the interconnectedness of everything.
And for our listeners who are always eager to learn and apply new knowledge, the power to shape your experience is within you. It's about consciously directing your thoughts, feelings, and actions free from those externally imposed shoulds and shouldn'ts.
And here's a final thought to ponder. If you're constantly creating your reality, what's one wrong thought you might want to reconsider to align with that joy, truth, love that the book emphasizes as the essence of the divine?
And remember, this is just the beginning. Conversations with God goes even deeper into these ideas. If this piqued your interest, definitely check out the book for yourself and continue exploring.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep creating the reality.
Did you get any of that?